couple of persons, maybe 3 persons for the first time in person. So recognize we don't have a quorum yet, but in the interest of time, I do want to get started. So if I may, not unlike what I just did, Lawrence, come on in, buddy. And we'll invite you to sit closer to, in fact, why don't you come right on down here so we're close to the microphone if you're so willing. You know, I don't follow rules very well, so so Lawrence, we're gonna begin with I don't think let's do it. You mind if we do a roll call?
That's fine. I just want to be sure I have to count who all is here.
Yes,
So Mr. Young, Mr. William, Mr. Collins,
Mr. Dion.
yeah, that's I was gonna go down the list.
Sorry.
No. I just want to make sure. So,
since this is our first time actually in person since March of 2020, if you recall, we were, at least some of us were out at the Altria building a year and a half ago. Let's just go around the room really quickly. I already introduced myself, Jonathan. Janelle?
Janelle Lowe, one of the school board attorneys.
Paul McClellan with the City of Richmond, Department of Economic Development.
Bobby?
Jason Dio, Paul local partner, private real estate.
Alana Gonzalez, Chief Operating Officer at RPS.
Lawrence Williams, registered architect.
And because we're an intimate group tonight, we'll also have Matt.
Hey, Matt, family director at economic.
And Mr. Hernandez, case extension.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Anticipate a couple of other persons will likely arrive. By the way, I apologize. I never pronounced your last name correctly. I put a T in there, but it's silent.
Right, Dio.
Dio, yeah.
One of these crazy South Louisiana.
T-U-I-L-L-O-T, correct? Yeah. All right. Very good. So first and foremost, I want to acknowledge that you should be in receipt in the last hour of a document, a revised inventory list sent to your email, and we can elaborate on what I sent you. It certainly doesn't constitute in any way what we submitted to the school board in March, i.e. the findings report, but this was the request of the VPC at the last meeting, if I recall correctly. So what you have there is initial effort to at least comply with that request. We are here today at Richmond Technical Center because the school board prioritized a new George Wythe High School for the purpose of construction and a new career technical education center at the Altria building, i.e. the Altria building donated to us in our portfolio. The Altria building or expectation for the new career technical center, hey Jason, come on in, includes $100 million relevant to the city's capital improvement plan, and we all introduced ourselves. Jason, you want to say hello, everybody?
Richard Romero.
We had so the Altria building constitute the impetus for the school board to, in addition to prioritization, include this facility and the acreage there too in vacant property committee portfolio, i.e. The rationale for us here this evening. So that's a little bit of background. Paul and I a moment ago had a very brief conversation relevant to some of the specs I did the same with Bobby and with Jonathan a moment ago, who's not in the room because he's helping our folks arrive in the building. But Paul, could you begin, if you would, with our conversation specifically? If you share acreage, what that looks like, and speak to the property.
The property is comprised of basically two parcels, 2020 Westwood Avenue, and that parcel is 10.629 acres. And then the second parcel, well, the western parcel is the southern parcel, the northern parcel is 2015 Way, and it is 5.783 acres. So the total site is in the neighborhood of like 16.4 acres.
Paul, may I put you on the spot? Because I know you are all things real estate in the city of Richmond. Ballpark, can you identify approximately 16 acres, where else in the city you can find contiguous property in that size, that acreage?
There are very few. It could become available for development that is that large. I mean, you have our whole our grass boulevard assembly, 60 acres. But and then there are some sites probably along Commerce Road, industrial sites that are that. But for this kind of prime location at the major interchange, that is pretty rare.
Jason, may I put you on the spot? Somebody who's invested a lot of time, resources in development, redevelopment, 16 acres, contiguous property in the city of Richmond.
It's very unique. I mean, a long time ago, we acquired 17 acres in Manchester on the Riverview River southbound, and that was transformative for that neighborhood. You know, we look at all the development that's come since then. So,
When was that? When is the
2011? It was. So it's been a long time now, but you know, and there are many other people that contribute to Manchester's growth. So I would say that riverfront property is transformative. So we're saying that something like this could be transformative to this area as well. Outside of the city, 60-acre assemblage. There are a few opportunities there. The land's worth a fair amount.
care to wager put a number on there?
You know, any property is kind of worth you know, the present value of future development minus the cost to get it there, right? So it's kind of like the public safety building downtown, that discussion on what is the property worth, you got to demo the property to get, you know, the building. So it'd be the same kind of math, if you would, on this property.
Right. It depends on whether the buildings would be reused, refurbished. We assume they're going to be demoed, but you've got to factor in that cost.
But if I had to pick a round number, give me some margin of error, I wouldn't be surprised if land's worth $1 million.
So for folks that may not have heard that, $1 million an acre, so perhaps we're talking about $16 million value.
And I don't think anybody in the real estate world would tell me I'm crazy for rejecting it.
I want to acknowledge our school board chair, Ms. Cheryl Burke,
We're excited to meet you. Thank you so very much.
and our school board colleague and past chair, Ms. Page.
They said they're having a hard time hearing.
So this is the camera and the speaker. We're going to move it in the middle.
Okay.
The other issue is that's our HEPA filtration unit. We don't want to turn it off.
I just put it on medium instead of high.
I'm going to be scanning that on the middle of the paper.
Maybe.
Maybe we
Got
could,
it.
if we
Just
pull the table out.
It's a 360, correct?
Yeah, right.
No, it is not.
No, it's not 360.
No.
So we're gonna have to. Some of us are gonna have to relocate to your side or this side.
Well, you know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna put it on the table.
Oh, okay.
Let's see if that's
Slide down here, but
Yeah, if everybody doesn't mind scooting down a little bit.
I thought that there were wheels on these chairs.
You know, that's what it is. That's what it is. I thought there were wheels as well, and I'm wondering.
There's something wrong here. Something wrong. Okay. Are we good now, Matt?
Yeah, that should be better. Okay.
Getting there.
If everybody can just talk really loud.
Excellent. All right. So Jason. So thank you, Paul. Thank you. So the conversation pertained to this property constitutes. We're going to call it an outlier anomaly within the city limits. I 16 acres, contiguous property, perhaps $16 million of value. I see Bobby stepped out for a moment, but I would like to inquire of Lana and Bobby about these facilities, and I say facilities because we have two really large buildings, and if we have any idea relevant, Jason, to capital improvement needs in this facility.
I don't know off the top of my head. It's not exactly the coolest place for one.
Right.
So I don't know if Alana.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can call Bobby. Oh, there's Bobby.
Oh,
back there.
and Jonathan, so perfect. I thought you were bringing us a cake.
Hey, Bobby. What CIP work does this facility need?
And roof in the near future, in the next 2 years, it's going to be a roof.
Yeah. So,
Excuse me, is that on both buildings or just this one? Look, this is north or south? South, so that's what.
so that's an expenditure of.
That would be $7 million. That would be $3 million.
So, at the risk of editorializing, which perhaps is inappropriate, but let me instead just ask. Oh, thank you. I didn't even see. Thank you. Cheryl Donna spoke to a moment ago our prioritization of facilities, the fact that we, thanks to the mayor, city council, $100 million is in the CIP budget going forward for the Altra facility. So, it seems to me our purpose today and going forward is to evaluate, like we have all the other properties, and part of that evaluation would relate to what we've just discussed, i.e., the value of the land and what that could mean for RPS vis-a-vis the potential cost to put new roofs on this facility. And introduce some sort of chronology context. If everybody's, yes ma'am.
Please forgive me for coming in late as well. Traffic from my side of town. Okay. $100 million the mayor has given to us specifically for CTE.
Right. Correct.
I missed that.
If I could, there's a little bit of nuance.
I can't hear you. Put back on that.
He was trying to follow the rules.
Technically, in our schools, you're supposed to wear a mask. Okay. The mayor in that memo that he sent to us
February 19th.
that's right, articulated a commitment to using expanded debt capacity coming up for George Wick and the Altries, and I believe identified $100 million of that for. We have not gotten any money. They haven't raised any money.
So
It's
it
just
wasn't just for CTE. This was for George Wick and
correct.
right. That's why I wanted to clarify. It was not just for the technical center. It was for with and however it unfolds. I know the $100 million will be coming, but it was not documented only for the technical center.
It does. Like if you look at the
pull it up now.
yeah, if you look at the I think if
No, I didn't. I have the letter as well.
no, I'm not referring to the letter. I'm referring to the budget of the city of Richmond.
No, but it explains it in the
Yep.
letter, the breakdown in the letter that we received on February 19th.
I know the letter preceded the adoption of the budget. So, but the point, I think the bigger picture is, so we anticipate that there's a relocation to that facility and that,
you know, so right now we don't have anything. Things may change, we may not get anything else. We don't know. So I just personally,
Sure.
you run things as you desire, but personally from my perspective, I can't move forward with not my hands. I'm from the country. I can't count my chickens before they hatch.
That's always a smart
so
policy.
once you show me the money and put it in our budget, then, but I don't want to take up time talking about what we anticipate, because things can change with a snap of a
Is
finger.
it in an ordinance or a
So,
letter?
It's in the budget.
say what, Lawrence?
Is it in an ordinance or a letter?
Is it in the order? Is the letter? I don't know about the ordinance.
Is it a legal document?
It's a public document.
In the mayor's office, but may not be adopted by council?
It's not an ordinance that is it, Jason, an ordinance?
I'm gonna pull up the city's budget and see if I can identify the elements.
Yeah.
I would just feel better. I don't want to mislead our listeners as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to leave here with
Yeah.
saying something and making
Yeah.
promises with what we
Yeah.
anticipate.
Understood.
I think our city,
Yeah.
I know we would want to happen, but as I stated earlier, I'm asking that we base our plans on what we know is there,
Yeah.
what is in the bank.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I was winning the lottery last week, okay? And I don't even play the lottery, but I thought I was gonna win it.
Yeah.
To my point with that, I just, with the temperament that's right now,
Yeah.
I don't wanna mislead anyone to thinking that, we have that just for this. That's not what I read from the letter.
Yeah, I'm not referring to the letter. So the budget.
I don't know about any ordinance either.
And the budget, yeah, it's got two separate $100 million that it describes it. So I think for the purpose of today, Dawn, yes ma'am.
I have a question. Do we have a status of the sale of any of the buildings that we have surplus quitclaim deed? Do we have a status report of that? Because, and I'm in agreement with what Ms. Burke said as far as misleading the public. If we have not, of the city, if they have not made any sales on those buildings, and if they have not made any sales, then therefore we have not received any proceeds of those buildings. So it's like we trying to add more and more to the list when this list has not realized.
I think I understand your point, which is show me what you've done before.
Exactly, and again, we do not want to mislead the public.
And the other issue is, what I was concerned about is the timing. The second issue is related to what she's saying. We surplus some properties. It was on the timeline. We're having trouble getting George Wythe in a timeline, politically. So even if you got this money, when would we be able to demolish this? The rate we're going, it's a slow process. And so would that money really be available to do the Altria Center? My impression is we've got to get out of here first before we can think about the Altria Center. And so we're talking 6 years on George Wythe. So obviously we're 12 years out, or 10 years out on the Altria bill. So what's the timeline is the question?
Timeline's variable, that's what we're trying to,
Just for clarification, the city's budget was adopted for this last today. In their capital budget for FY22 to FY26, there is in FY24 $100 million for George Wythe and $100 million for the new technical.
100 million for George Wythe now.
It's slated for FY24.
Okay, got it.
And Now, obviously, that's 2 fiscal years from now, so things can change, but there is a adopted commitment.
And the technical center will be in a parallel timeline with George Wood, possibly.
I think it really all depends upon the city's ability to put forth that money and our ability to build.
Yeah.
So Jason, you said FY 24, 100 million for Altria building and what, right?
100 for each.
200 million.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a screenshot and send it.
Thank you, Jason. So the question pertains to how do we evaluate? So this property is now in the RPS VPC portfolio. How do we want to evaluate this property? Because we've identified, everybody who's spoken has identified some important variables. Yes, ma'am. You keep it.
Is this the up-to-dateness?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how do we want to proceed? It seems to me that we've addressed some of the key elements, i.e. value of property, some of the key elements, i.e. value of property, i.e. impending cost, chronology, money anticipated, to Sheriff's point, anticipated money in the budget. Dollars have been, that City Council has said will be there, but things could happen for the Altria Center. The other element regards programming, right? I mean, so what is done in this building that's unique to this building? Jonathan was in here, but I know he's busy. Bobby, can you speak? We had a conversation about that, and Cheryl, Dawn, you can speak to that too. Those things that are in this building that are unique to this building. In other words, like what we do with small engine repair, that's unique to this building. I would propose this space is not unique to this building. It's a classroom.
STEM room.
It's right. So can y'all, anybody wants to?
So you meaning like vocational equipment?
Yeah, exactly. What's fixed in place that's specific to this campus? If y'all have an idea, like approximately how much of the space?
Like automotive or welding.
Yes.
HVAC?
You have HVAC in here, you have a print shop in here.
Nursing.
Veterinarian science or something?
Yeah.
It's not a full, it's okay, but it's not as it could be, which is what we really need. This is not the 21st century. It's not still the arts.
The pharmacy tech. Pharmacy tech.
Yeah.
So
But
again,
Bobby, wouldn't you also say that some of those spaces, all of those programs, but aren't really built for this?
No, that's what I agree. They're not state of the art by no means, and they are antiquated, and they need to be monitored.
yeah, I guess I don't want to infer too much from what Jason just inquired of you, but I guess where I'm going with this is, and to Lawrence's point, to everyone's point, how much of this space, if we so chose to do so, could we pick up? Could we pick up and relocate to somewhere else? Should we want to, mindful of Mrs. Page's critique, so I want to acknowledge that. But how much of the space could we pick up and relocate to somewhere else if we wanted to expedite a surplus sale of this property? That's my question.
You're saying doing that before the Ultra building is ready? So a temporary move? Okay.
Just asking the question. Yeah.
We have those spaces here. Why would we, help me to understand why would we do that? I think about somebody putting it downstairs or whatever else. Is it because we want to sell the property? But why would we, well, if we already have 100 million to get started,
Right. So
why would we sell this? Because probably the equipment is here, we probably need to move it.
To your point, yes, there's probably some archaic,
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, somebody may want it, somebody may want it, that let's,
right,
whatever, different pieces and parts.
right.
But personally, I don't see the need of spending the amount of money, knowing the equipment that, especially is downstairs. We have horticulture, which is right where your plants, I forgot that wasn't, do we still have that? We let that go, okay, all right, but that was a thriving, I would like to see that come back.
Here's my, I'll acknowledge my bias. I think that we have a lot of work to do relevant to CTE. We probably all agree about that. A lot of opportunity for improvement. I'm not sure that enrollment in any of the programs that have a fixed space merits the opportunity cost relevant to potential sell of the property. And we are going to, obviously, the objective is to relocate, to build a world-class facility at the Altria Center. I'm just asking the question. So in other words, does it make sense to hold on to a property that we may have to put $3 million in capital in just for it to be torn down a couple of years later, and instead, if we relocated somewhere in the interim?
But also, one caveat is the main concern, the interruption with the students being involved in the programs. How would that impact them? Mm-hmm. So, whatever we do, it has to be well planned out, because we're talking about students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's our purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's a good North Star. That's important. Yeah, North Star. Again, I'm editorialized. I just don't want to put $3 million into roofs that probably won't be here a decade from now.
I don't know that. I mean, I've heard a lot of it. I don't know that they're caving in tomorrow, since it necessitates it happening in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Do you agree?
No, I agree. I mean, we just like to challenge the leaks in the building, but at the end of the day, I don't think anybody can say it's going to fall in.
Yeah, so my sense of this is, it is functional. It's certainly not ideal, but I think it could be functional in maybe all three of us. And even if that meant that the funds from a future sale of this thing could go to Woodville, or it could go to the next school on the south side. It doesn't have to go to the Altria.
Correct.
So, it's all one big thing.
Correct.
And I want us to also think what you stated earlier about the population per se. Once we have a state-of-the-art facility that offers many of our students, and this is what the trend is now across the United States through the National 1 to 10 Coalition, where 10 businesses support school system with the technical piece as well. And the trend is that there are also internships through those companies while they're in the center. So when they finish, you and I talked about that on a smaller scale. But so when they finish high school, they can go ahead and become an architect when they may already have, or a media, not media. We also had media service. We still have that. We used to have TV studio. We used to have that. We used to have that. So
but they came from an architect.
Yeah, but once we offer a state-of-the-art curriculum and have the facilities intact, which they are. That was when I was in Delaware, and we go visit maybe. But there are opportunities, and I know the local counties around us have some too, but I think Delaware is supposed to be one of the best on the East Coast. So my point is, students may, just like they get, what do you call the additional 2-year degree? Yeah, but what do you call the program? Dual enrollment. This is, we have dual enrollment for students going to J. Sargent Riddles or whatever. You could have a dual enrollment here, dual enrollment program, maybe through Riddles, to take in those other programs. So, why drive a Volkswagen when you can drive a Mercedes? Okay, I mean, think about it. And nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with driving a Volkswagen. So what my point is, if you have a choice, and it's public education, and you're offering the best, I think that will also bring students and families into the area and businesses that would want to partner with us. So I think we need to think beyond what's here right now.
No, I couldn't agree more. And what you're describing really is the model at Christa Ray. Maybe
I think that is up to par what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm looking at. Nothing wrong with Christa Ray. I know several people that work there. I know several people who work there, but I'm thinking that people know.
Richard, you had
People will
something.
leave Christa Ray and come to this place to see what's going on in that place.
Yeah, I have a thought related to our last meeting, because we talked about
Yes,
the
sir.
Norrell Annex, Norrell School, and
Yes.
also Clark Springs.
Yes.
And those add up to 10 acres, and they
Yeah.
would be mostly used for parking, storing some equipment, and then 1-story, 2-story, sometimes 3-story buildings. Not a very efficient use of space. If we add this, you're talking about 26 acres. If you have 26 acres, you're not using efficiency. The cost of housing is so high, you run into the Fox situation where the houses are $700,000, so you can't fill up the school with the people in the zone. So at some point, and I think that's kind of up to Jason to figure that out, like how the vocational, when it's going to grow. And I appreciate you talking about it being good. We should do that, so you can't sell everything now. But it's just a lot of acreage, and maybe what we need is a plan for like Norrell Annex or school that, hey, we need a 6-story building for administration pretty soon, because if we don't have it, we're just going to be, Clark Springs could be some of the overflow if it's better to move out of this building. I know you don't like that, but there's a lot of stuff that the city owns. 26 acres is a lot. At some point, people would look at that and say, wow, you're hoarding and then arguing for good education, but people can't afford to live near a school. People can't walk to a school. If there's more density near the schools, they can walk to the schools. So, and that's hard, right? It means building schools that are designed as urban schools so you can have more people living. It's a tough situation, right? You don't want it to take forever, but you also want to do it right.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good point, and I'm also wondering, and then I'll say anything else, are there other properties that we own that's not on this list? Thank you for this, I sold stuff to the list, but are there other vacant lots that we own? Everybody's saying that. Okay.
Well, this could be semantics, right? That list is, I think I would characterize it as comprehensive, but are there properties that aren't, I would contend that just down the street.
He's gonna bring up John Marshall.
Yeah, I mean, right.
Yeah, there are.
Are we gonna build a new John Marshall? Good.
No, he would like to raise the point that it is underutilized, so.
John Marshall?
Yeah, I mean, so it depends on what you mean by vacant, I guess is my point,
Right
it's
there,
semantics.
let's stick to this. I know what you want to do. I know what your agenda is. Because you are in favor of consolidating, and I understand where you're coming from.
Correct, but if absent that, then that's the list. Absent that is, I think, a fair list.
That's,
Jason, yes, sir.
I want to throw out a couple other ideas. I mean, again, I'm ignorant to a lot of what the school systems needs, or I don't know much about the facility, but if you want to get the Altria building up and running, open sooner rather than later, and you've got funds that are pledged in the future, there's a model that the state utilized downtown when, I think it's for workers' comp. They had a private developer, Jason RFP, had a private developer buy one of the median general buildings, not the one that Shmeen Hotels bought, but the first one that sold. Oregon Development bought it on a contract basis, had to build it out to state standards, built it, and then once it was done, sold it back to the state because they said we can get it done more effectively, more cheaply. The state could if they had to do through their procurement practices, and we're just more efficient. Right? It worked out. The state utilized that process. The one thing I was thinking about with the Altria building is I was looking. It's not in a historic district like Richmond, Manchester is, so it's not eligible for tax credits. So I was thinking, wow, could you utilize the state federal tax credit program to subsidize the cost? $100 million is a heck of a lot of money to spend on a 279,000 square foot building. It's a lot of money. And so, even for a state-of-the-art facility. And so what I started thinking about was if you guys could identify what you need in the facility, put your wish list out there, put out a public RFP for someone to come in and not buy the property, the school board or the city could continue to own it, but land lease the building. Since it's in an opportunity zone, you've heard about that.
That's what I was going to say.
Through a land lease, someone can come in, so the city or the school board collectively still controls the property through deed restrictions and other measures to control the future of it. Let someone come in, build it out at their risk under a predetermined budget. They can get advantage through the opportunity zone program and roll in to get the tax benefits of that program. If they hold it for 10 years, they get all the benefits of that program, and then they can be forced to sell it back to the school board of the city at fair market value at that time. Or the city could continue leasing it, at a market lease rate. But all of the capital put in could be on the private development side to get you up and running much sooner than waiting many, many years as that. So it's a creative solution to getting you in the space, getting the building you want, and not having to wait for future proceeds from the budget. And the state's done it. So,
because most of that area is an opportunity zone.
Yes, ma'am.
It extends from Richmond Highway, Richmond area, crossing over to Chesterfield. And you see the development on the Chesterfield side in comparison on the Richmond side.
And the benefit to the school system is that because of these tax advantages, whatever the cost of capital is for a private firm to come in and do this, they're going to get some of those benefits, so they're going to give you a more favorable deal than you might get because they're saying, hey, we're benefiting on the back end of tax benefits. So I don't know, it's a lot to put out there on the table, but I'm hearing about some of these challenges and the time frame that you want to get something open sooner rather than later instead of waiting for funding. And instead of spending $100 million, which is a whole lot of money. I don't know, I don't speak out of turn, just throwing out ideas.
I'd like to hear more about that.
Absolutely.
I know some really good one. Every speed or whatever does something similar to the same thing.
Jason, is it just Cheryl and Jonathan, or is there a will among the group to hear more at another meeting about? Is there an interest among the group in hearing, maybe receiving a presentation at a future meeting?
Yeah, because from my understanding, there's a lot of financial opportunities.
If you're asking us to speak louder.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Wait, say no.
No, I was saying that from my understanding, and I don't want to, depend on my memory, but I remember the research that I did previously about the opportunity zone. So I think it's something worth looking into.
And Lawrence had a question up here.
Yeah, I was just asking, could this committee receive a presentation from a private firm that he might know? Can we receive that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So maybe we could work offline between now and this is a perfect time to ask this next question. Actually, I was going to wait to the end. Sure enough, talk about this. Is there any interest? Maybe that's the wrong way of saying it. Would folks be amenable to convening next as a group in the month of August in lieu of July? Or I see one thumbs up. I see you hands wave. Thumbs down.
Not meeting in July. No meeting in July. We need a mental break. We need a break.
So in other words, we would meet in August next. So I see one thumbs down, a few up.
Wait, then we have a chance to hear a presentation about opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be the agenda for August, correct?
Time to work it out.
That's fine. Oh, yeah.
We'll still be working, but not together at that point.
Dawn's giving me the look like, no, don't do this.
I can't attend because I'm moving 3 kids, my children, going to different colleges, moving, and so that's pretty much all my time.
Yeah, August
They
is
move
gonna be
different
very busy
times.
for you, yeah.
3 different times, so that's where my time would be.
But we'll make sure we can call in.
Paul, you were very quiet, and we desperately would need the city input relevant to if we entertain this conversation.
I'm happy to provide it to our conversation.
It might be interesting to talk to someone, take it who's workers' comp, that did this before. If I could call Mark Gordon and talk to him, see if he's got some ideas, maybe some of the workers' comp, just see them stateside, how it works.
Well, in Chesterfield.
Sometimes it takes maybe $70,000 for a firm to prepare a formal PBE or request, and the question is, can this organization receive a preliminary one?
That my ask would just be something that is
Simple
very
introduction.
50,000 foot, not specific to the site, but just
It's a lot of work to prepare a good strong.
a concept, not specific to the site. I think would be fair to ask of anybody absent compensation.
But also, I think maybe worthwhile to reach out to Chesterfield County Chamber or Board of Supervisor, because I'm sure they have a lot of information about the opportunity zone, because on the Chesterfield side of Richmond Highway, that's how they develop that stretch of land.
Cloverleaf Lawn. Is that what you're referring to?
Used to be called Jefferson Davis, now Richmond Highway.
Like going
Going towards Bellwood.
Bellwood, okay.
Right.
Yeah, when you cross over the Richmond side into Chesterfield,
Right.
There is a
huge difference.
There is a difference.
And they use opportunity zone.
I can put together some very high-level numbers, and I'll be guessing on a lot of assumptions to show you guys how a structure like this would work. The reality is there is a lot of pent-up demand to invest this type of money. There have not been as many opportunities in opportunity zones as many people expect. So by creating new opportunities, I think there's a lot of money interested in the boulevard property the city has. It's in an opportunity zone. This might be in an opportunity zone, I'm not sure. But, if you look at everything that was happening in Scott's Addition or even in Manchester, it's just added fuel to the fire. And so what it is it's about working out this public-private partnership where you marry up the best of both worlds, and the investors get the tax benefits, the city gets, the school board gets the benefits of a lower cost structure. I think there's a way there to look at it.
I think that's an excellent idea.
So we'll work offline. If anybody has any input relevant to this presentation, what you'd like to see in that presentation, please holler at me so that we can, and Paul, thanks for offering already that,
Can you suggest a site so I can learn more about? I've heard about it, so I can prep. I'm sure I'm not going to.
Yeah, I'll send around, there's bound to be a newspaper article or something about the media general building and
I
reporting.
remember that. I just don't remember the particulars.
Yeah.
Which is what you're going to bring us.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll reach out to Oregon and see if they're willing to participate, so you have another perspective.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Sounds like time-wise, it would be 2 hours.
I agree. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we'll do in August, and I think that will really help inform our decision making pertinent to this property and to Altria.
So I think we can talk theoretically about how something like this might work. We have no idea of what the requirements would be for what you guys want in this facility. So at some point, if you decided to consider moving forward and drafted an RFP, you would need help from an architectural or design firm, or somebody to identify all these things. That's kind of what you were talking about, is assembling all of that into a cohesive RFP. That's the hard part.
Well, probably proposal that has to be reviewed.
Right.
And it could come in with just a private business and say, here's a proposal, we can do it faster. Pretty much you have to accept it on
Right.
value.
Right, that's actually called like a design build approach, where the school board would say, here are all the classrooms we need, labs, everything else. You build it, you meet these requirements, and all of the state or city, for health requirements and everything else that will be laid out, and you're responsible for delivering it.
We have about 10 minutes left. Initially, we were going to just take a very, very quick little, I don't even characterize it as a tour, but I don't know that we really need. Is there an interest in that? I think most folks have been in the building multiple times anyhow. Yes, ma'am.
It just hit me when something Richard just said. HUD has a program, STEM, where the school is built at the lower level and apartments and shops. It just dawned on me.
Thank you, Jesus.
So
we need dormitory.
Yes, but that's just what I just thought about. The families live, and it's. I have a picture of it. Something I'll send it to you because that's something. And they have the money through the Veterans Association of HUD, and we have a small partnership now with just a couple of schools.
Even if it's only teachers' housing.
I love that idea. We've been talking about that for years. But that's an idea for families as well, and they cover. But the lower level of the building is STEM.
That property. Now I'm interrupting you. I apologize.
No, I'm sorry.
That property. How much acreage is at Altria? I know we're talking square footage, but do we know what the acreage is at that site?
There are 3 parking lots, right?
It's a lot of. Yeah, that's right.
So it's 279,000 square feet and 10.07 acres.
I mean, 10 acres.
It's 10 acres.
It's Cheryl.
20-something?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like that. I mean, I think we would be remiss if we didn't at least have a conversation about what you just said.
I'm going to send you the information from her. Dr. Newfield has been looking at that with, we were just brainstorming with Armstrong Renaissance. That would have been an opportunity since we have so many people. We had known about that earlier. So I think that's an awesome opportunity.
And we've spent a lot of time talking about Altria building, but it seems to me these two properties are they are linked because of the decision the school board made. So I don't think we're out of order. But are there any questions, observations, recommendations about this property for the balance of this evening? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, but it's not about this property. The status update that you hard copy.
I think it's down there.
Can you send that information out via email?
Yeah, you should. Yes, I sent it. It was like 5:15, so it's in your email.
Okay.
You wouldn't have seen it yet because you probably were driving when I sent it. Yep.
You said this.
Yeah.
Some of them I wonder why they're on here.
So that's everything.
Okay,
So that's.
technically it's not done.
I'm sorry.
All right, we have Clock Springs, or we said we want to keep Clock Springs.
Correct. So
Norwell
that's
is on here, we said we want to keep Norwell.
right. So that's.
Edison is on here, we said we keep it.
I don't think we
I mean,
have, but that's the whole inventory. So that's everything. It's an update.
There are some notations I think you had under each.
Yeah. So there should be there's a status report. And
For some.
Well, I know it's Ruffin Road.
yeah.
Like some Ephraim Road, it says that we decided to keep it as is.
Correct, yeah. So, under each
So
one
I
of those
noticed
is a
that.
brief status report. Correct. Good question. Yeah. Any other questions or
Just a general comment. I mean, back to the highest and best use of this property. It's probably not the existing building. You could put a ton of money into this, and you're still, the finished product probably won't be worth what it could be worth. If RPS ever wanted to dispose of it, multifamily or townhome or some kind of housing product would be very attractive here. You could always put a deed restriction on it that a certain amount would be available at an affordable level for public school teachers, like 10% of the housing or something like that, so that there's an annuity to the benefit of RPS from the sale of property, even if RPS doesn't control it. And that's a way to almost subsidize what teachers make, even if you don't have direct dollars to pay them more, give you a discount on housing in perpetuity. You just have that baked into the development.
Well, and this site is large enough to be true mixed use.
Right.
We would, when we're, our initiative with the city now with our 2025 annual real estate strategy plan that we issued with 77 properties we're going to put some facility that's really focused on developing affordable housing as a component of anything we do. So especially large mixed use sites, we're going to require some percentage of affordable housing built into that program.
But there's nothing specific, it's exciting, but there's nothing specific to Cheryl's point about teachers specifically or police officers. It's just in general, right? So what, I mean, 16 acres, high density residency, like how many units are you potentially talking about?
We're building 120 units in Scott's Addition on 8/10 of an acre.
On what? So
On 8/10 of an acre.
On 8/10 of an acre?
On Belleville Street.
On what street?
Belleville.
On the side.
So that would be,
And that's a pretty dense development. That's 6 stories.
On property.
Yeah, there's the new project going up across from Stella's in Scott's Addition. There's 350 units
Across from
on.
Stella's?
You know,
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Stella's in the fan.
They have one in Scott's Addition.
Yeah, I heard
in
that.
Hancock.
Okay.
There's 350 units on like 2.3 acres there.
so you're talking about, if I do the math correctly, like 2,300 units here. Potentially.
You might,
Potentially.
someone would probably, they'd have a mix, they'd have maybe some townhomes and 2 over 2.
Right.
You know, so they might not be quite as dense. But
Yeah,
you could
but
fit
over
a lot.
2,000 residencies here.
It's a lot of housing. And so if you went and said, hey, 10% of whatever you build here has to be available, we have a first right of refusal for public school teachers or staff to rent them at 75% of the market rent, 60% of the market rent, to ensure that benefit for the future. Again, it's like out of the box thinking. It's not what you always see, but there's no reason for stuff that says you can't do it.
Help me out here. When you do large development, so you get high density and your taxes returned on that property, does the school system automatically gets 10, 15, 30% of any new revenue that's come through?
I know there was an ordinance approved several years ago where you get the proceeds from the sale. And I think
What about
an ordinance
future
approved
tax?
that gets the lease revenue too.
I believe so. They get the what revenue?
Lease revenue.
That's a lease versus.
Not,
Not the real.
I don't think there is one.
I mean, you have to go through some state
could we
laws to
do
do
that?
that.
Could we do what you said? Is that something that could be done?
I mean, we're giving away a piece of property that's a high density. It's not just the value at
The
sale.
land, yeah.
It's the value over 50 years. And we get a little bit of that as well.
The city would have to decide that.
Yeah.
The ordinance written where the tax revenue.
So, Paul, you're gonna help us do that?
I have to look at it.
You're gonna help us do that?
That's the way I develop it.
Yeah, that's right. I think that is a terrific way for us to close out this conversation. Us dreaming big and thinking about what potentially could be at this site, and perhaps that could be the impetus for us to move with some expediency. But are there any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Yes, ma'am.
You know, I'm gonna ask something. I'd like to suggest that we meet on another day when we do come back in August, rather than
Not on
Wednesdays,
Wednesday?
because our PS Live starts at 7. Are we having it tonight?
I just remembered that we're actually not.
For the next couple of weeks we do that. We take a vacation, good. But moving forward.
Moving forward, we can, yeah. So I'll send out
Maybe
like,
Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
If you want us to do a doodle poll, we have that together.
yeah. So we'll send out something and get everybody to weigh in. All right, folks.
Just got doodle.
No.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on a hot
The water's
Summer
over there that
evening.
he brought in. Please.
Oh, that's what it was.